What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 173 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Blue Beetle, Volume 1, The More Things Change. As you can see, this is from DC's Rebirth initiative that just started recently. This is by Keith Giffen, Scott Collins, and Romulo Fajardo Jr. And this is the first 5 issues of Blue Beetle's new ongoing series, as well as Blue Beetle Rebirth Issue 1. And I had never read anything with Jaime Reyes before. I'm sure at some point in this video I'm going to accidentally call him Jamie. That's how his name is spelled, but I think it's pronounced Jaime. That's how they pronounced it in the Justice League versus Teen Titans animated movie, which is, I think, the only thing that I have actually seen with this character. I'm somewhat familiar with the character, but usually when someone says Blue Beetle, my mind immediately goes to Ted Kord. This is the first thing that I've read with this character, and I really like him. I really like a lot of the stuff about this book. I really liked this book in general, but it is going to sound like that I did not like it, because a lot of this video is going to be me complaining about some of the really big things that did bother me with this book. So first, I want to talk about the stuff that I did like. This book felt very Spider-Man-y to me, in the sense that Jaime is just a normal teenage guy who is dealing with normal teenage stuff, but he also has superhero stuff on his plate. For example, one of his friends, either her mom or her aunt, is some kind of supervillain who is watching over Blue Beetle, and specifically the magic/alien scarab thing that is attached to him. And Jaime does not know that. And that felt very Norman Osborn-y to me. At one point, there is this superpowered girl who's maybe a hero, maybe not. She's kind of crushing on Blue Beetle in his superhero identity. And then there's this girl who goes to high school with Jaime. She's kind of crushing on him in his Jaime identity. That felt very Spider-Man-y. There's a lot of stuff here that feels like it's influenced by the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko Spider-Man comics. And I really like those comics. And so I really like it when a comic book, or even a TV show or something like that, can bounce off of that dynamic and make it work. I really like that here. Now, on to some of the stuff that I did not like. Now, like I said, I did really like this book, but it is going to sound like I really did not, because I'm going to talk a lot about the stuff here that I did not like. Number one, I do not like that this book makes Dr. Fate a bad guy. And at one point in the book, Dr. Fate says, yeah, he's going to kill one person. Spoilers, he's going to try to kill Jaime. He's going to kill one person to save millions of other people. He believes that Blue Beetle is a threat to humanity, and he thinks, well, yeah, I'm going to kill Jaime, but then it's to save the entire planet. So you may be saying, oh, he's not really a bad guy, he's more of an ends justify the means kind of guy. No, at one point Dr. Fate lets a dude die instead of trying to save him, even after Dr. Fate got the thing that he needed before he let this guy die. So Dr. Fate here is straight up a bad guy, and I don't like that. I don't think that Dr. Fate has been portrayed as just a straight up villain before this series. I know there have been like alternate universe versions of him. There was one, I think his name was like Dr. Chaos or something like that. He was a bad guy, but the actual Dr. Fate has never really been a bad guy before. I think the Young Justice series kind of portrayed Nebu and the process of Nebu choosing a vessel to be Dr. Fate, kind of portrayed that as being a little bit not okay, a little bit shady, but even there, Dr. Fate wasn't a bad guy. I don't like this here. Usually Dr. Fate is portrayed as being very cold, very inhuman, but he's still a hero. He's still one of the good guys. I don't like this at all. I'm not really sure where they're going with this. I don't even know which version of Dr. Fate this is, because he only shows up in a handful of pages in this story. It's very clear that they are setting up something bigger with him. He shows up in the very last page of this book, and he opens a portal and goes through it. I don't know what that signifies, where he's going, what he's doing, other than he's planning to do something to kill Jaime. But I don't like this. I don't know if this is in any way connected to the fairly recent Dr. Fate character who was introduced just a couple years ago. His name was Khaled, I think. I guess it may be the same character, because a big thing about Rebirth is, I learned this after I read several of the Rebirth books, apparently all of the creators are going into Rebirth saying, this is still the New 52 continuity, we're just slightly tweaking a few things. And as far as I know, the Khaled version of Dr. Fate was part of the New 52 continuity. So I guess this is Khaled, or maybe Khaled died and this is a new Dr. Fate. I don't know. Maybe that will be given to us later on down the line. Speaking of superheroes who used to be heroes and are now portrayed as villains, I do not like Ted Kord in this book. Like I said, usually whenever I think of the Blue Beetle, I think of Ted Kord. I used to be a huge fan of the character. I still like the character, I just don't like him in this book. Ted Kord here is supposed to be a mentor figure to Jaime Reyes. Whenever they first announced Rebirth, one of the things that really caught my eye was they said they were going to do a book with Ted Kord mentoring Jaime, and I really like that idea a lot. I like Ted Kord, and as far as I know, this is the first time that he's actually officially been back. I want to say since he was killed in Infinite Crisis, or shortly before Infinite Crisis. I know there have been like time travel shenanigans with Booster Gold where he was almost back and then he wasn't, but for the most part, I don't think that he's been officially back and staying back since he was killed off about 10 years ago. So I really like that Ted Kord is back. Unfortunately, this is not the Ted Kord that I fell in love with in those Keith Giffen, James DeMatteis, Kevin Maguire Justice League comics from the 80s and 2000s. This is not that version of Ted Kord. This version of Ted Kord is a psychopath who is trying to get Jaime Reyes killed. And you may be saying, wait, what are you talking about here? So, Ted Kord, for some reason, at one point, he was a superhero. Shortly after Superman and Batman first appeared on the scene, he became a superhero. He was influenced by his next-door neighbor, who was John Garrett, who, in real life, he was the original Blue Beetle from a company that was not DC. It was like Fox Comics or something like that. And then that company, or I guess it was Charlton Comics anyway. But John Garrett was the original Blue Beetle, and in this continuity, he is an Indiana Jones type, and he finds the magical scarab thing, and then that is what influences Ted to call himself the Blue Beetle, and then for some reason, he stops being a superhero. We don't know why, but at this point in the story, he owns his own company, Kord Industries, and he's throwing money around, doing lots of different stuff in, I think this is set in El Paso, doing lots of different stuff in El Paso, Texas, and he is trying to, air quotes, mentor Jaime. The problem is, there are multiple times in this book where Ted Kord sends Jaime into a situation that is very dangerous, and he deliberately withholds information from Jaime that could have gotten him killed. He does that at least twice, and the book tries to play it like it's funny and hilarious. They kind of have it as like a very jokey situation whenever that happens. It's not funny. Ted Kord is a dangerous person in this book. At one point, Jaime, several times in this book actually, he demands that Ted Kord get this Blue Beetle thing off of him. He says, I don't want this to be part of me. I want you to take it off of me. And Ted Kord says, well, we don't know a whole lot about it. If we try that, it will kill you. By that point, Ted Kord has already met with Dr. Fate, who has already threatened to kill Jaime. Ted Kord knows that Dr. Fate is going to kill Jaime if Jaime remains part of the Blue Beetle dichotomy. But Ted Kord refuses to take this thing off of him. Now, we find out later that it is part of Jaime, and that if they do try to take it off, it likely will do some damage to Jaime. But Ted Kord knows that if they leave it on, Dr. Fate is definitely going to kill Jaime. So, to me, and of course he doesn't tell Jaime any of this, to me, Ted Kord is not a good guy here. He is very much someone who should not be trusted. Now, it's possible that in Volume 2 and Volume 3, his relationship with Jaime is going to soften a little bit, and he's going to be a little bit more trustworthy. I really don't understand why he treats Jaime like he doesn't need to know any of this information. And that kind of segues into another thing I have with this book. It feels to me like everyone in this book treats Jaime like he is just some crazy wild card who can't handle the basic truth. At one point, we find out that his mom has been, well, we know that she's been running a free clinic, or presumably Jaime knows that, but he finds out in this book that she has been using her medical skills to help this gang who has superpowers. And Jaime, very logically, has a problem with this. He says they are dangerous, and it is going to be very dangerous for you to be doing this kind of thing. And then, sure enough, she gets attacked at her clinic later on in the book. But whenever he confronts her with this, she basically says, you don't get a say in this, and I get to do whatever I want, and I didn't tell you just because. Even though Jaime's dad is like, okay, in this family, transparency is very important. We don't have any secrets from each other. But then Jaime's dad didn't say one word about Jaime's mom keeping this thing a big secret from Jaime. It's really weird how everyone treats Jaime like he's just this big jerk when I'm reading this, Jaime seems like the most logical, level-headed character in this entire series. Everyone else just kind of comes across like kind of a jerk towards Jaime. At one point, two of his friends, they are constantly bickering with each other, and there's like one page where Jaime is talking to the girl, and he asks her why she hasn't asked the guy out yet. So I guess she has a crush on the guy, but he doesn't know it, but she certainly doesn't act like she likes him. Every time that they're together on screen, she's always insulting him, and I get it, teenagers, you know, they don't really act with their brains, they act with their hormones, hormones, I get it, but she really doesn't act like she likes this guy. But anyway, at one point, these two are, they're bickering with each other, and Jaime says, hey, if you two don't quit it, I'm going to go hang out with Kevin Coe. And that's a reference to the OMAC from the New 52, so I guess he goes to school with Jaime, although we don't actually see him in this book. But at one point, he says, I'm going to go hang out with Kevin. And both of his friends are like, ew, you hang out with Kevin? And I get it, teenagers can be horrible people sometimes, but it's a good idea if you're going to make these people be in the front of the book to make them be likable characters that we are going to want to read about. If you make them be huge judgmental jerk faces, I'm not going to want to keep reading this book. And that was kind of a weird thing there with the kids. I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this book. I did like it. I promise you, I really did enjoy this book, but those few things really bugged me. Mostly the portrayal of Ted Kord and Dr. Fate. Those things just really rubbed me the wrong way. I will be reading Volume 2. I hope that Volume 2 is better than Volume 1. I hope that we can get a little bit more of a heroic portrayal of Ted Kord anyway. I really have no idea what they're doing with Dr. Fate. Maybe he's going to end up being an ally. Maybe he is actually going to try and kill Jaime. I really have no idea. But this really does feel like the beginning of what could be a really good series. But those few things just really didn't work for me at all. So those are my thoughts on Blue Beetle, The More Things Change. I hope that you guys liked this video. And if you did, I hope that you will like, share, comment, and subscribe. And that is all that I have to say. So tomorrow, I will talk to you guys about another book. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.